Hey guys, got in a little mini reflex red dot sight. This is coming from Arory. To be honest with you, I've never heard of this company. I kind of started looking up some of the videos, and it looks like they've been around for at least a year. Um, but the model that they sent me here is the HD 2417KF. You can see it takes a 2032 battery. There's 8 brightness settings. It does come with the Picatinny adapter there, but it's also an RMR footprint. Multi-coated lens made out of aluminum. So we have Shake Awake, and it's ultra compact. But I figured we'd do a quick unboxing. Won't bore you guys with too much of it. So it looks like we got the reflex sight itself there, a battery, and the manual. And below the manual was like a warranty registration card, a lens cleaning cloth, and then down in here are a couple of tools for probably mounting and then making adjustments. So before we get into looking at the red dot, I did just want to point out, obviously this comes in a cardboard box. Doesn't make anything bad. It's a fairly durable box. They have their branding, nice pictures, descriptions of stuff. I know it's not like the hard plastic cases that like a Trigicon, those come in, but again, that site would be, $400 versus this coming in at about $80. So we'll kind of see what it's all about here. So first thing I'll say is it does come with a cover that is molded and formed for this exact site. You can see where the little controls there are and how that is molded to fit right on there. So that's pretty nice. I've had a lot of these where it's just like kind of like a generic one. If you turn the thing upside down, it would just fall off. This one's actually made to fit this optic. Not the thickest rubber in the world for sure. I mean, you can pretty much just squish that, but it'll do the job to protect your glass. So let's take an up close look at it. We'll kind of look for any type of quality control issues. A lot of times I'll see like the adhesive coming out from around that lens there. This actually looks pretty darn good. I don't see any imperfections. I like to look at the anodization to see if there's noticeable blemishes or if there's, nicks in it. Overall, though, this looks pretty good. Want to very quickly just kind of glance through the manual with you. You can pause and read any of these screens that you want. Again, it's made out of aircraft grade aluminum. You can mount it with the Picatinny mount or with the RMR. The fast target acquisition means basically that you shoot with both eyes open. It's easy to find the dot. You have unlimited eye relief. They claim it's very durable. It's got 8 brightness levels, but 1 and 2 are actually just for night vision. So we'll have 3 through 8. It looks like that motion activated technology or Shake Awake, it shuts down after 5 minutes of sensing no movement. And then the slightest bump or anything, it should come back on. And I'll test that for you guys and make sure that does work. Again, our dot's a 2 MOA, so it should be pretty small. And I'll get some measurements for you. It shows a weight there of 0.13 pounds, but I'll get you guys, it talks about their warranty. And it looks like it shows a couple of their other scopes and red dots that they make. Grab you guys some ballpark measurements. Looks like our length is not quite 1 3/4. The width is about 1.25 inches. And the height with the Picatinny mount, the total height is about 1.5. And if you did not have that pick mount on there, you're right at about 1 inch. And a weight with the Picatinny mount is 2 ounces, 2.1 ounces. So it's clearly going to be lighter than that once we take that off. So a real quick tour of the red dot. We have our brightness settings over here, obviously plus and minus. If it's on and you want to turn it off, you can press and hold that minus sign We have our elevation adjustments here, windage adjustment there. If we want to remove the Picatinny from the actual red dot, it's these two screws here we have to take out. And showing you the glass, it looks like it's very, very clear. You can read everything pretty easily, but there's definitely a bluish hue. You can see how the box is white, but in here it's got like a bluish gray almost to it. We'll see what that looks like outside, but inside I can definitely see it. Part of that's because of that multi-coated lens on here. It's supposed to allow for more light transmission, but also make things clearer for you. This is IPX6 waterproof rated, and it's supposed to withstand up to 1200 Gs of recoil. So you should be able to put it on just about any pistol, rifle, shotgun, just about anything really. So a lot of times these manufacturers will have a battery pre-installed and then they include an extra one. I'm not sure if Arory did that, but let's try to turn it on and see what we get. Yep. So they do include the extra battery. Let's go up through these settings here and see how bright that 2 MOA dot gets. I'm just going to hit it a bunch of times and get to where I feel like it's the top. So that should be 8. Now let's start coming back down through. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then the next 2 and 1 should be kind of night vision settings. And yeah, I cannot see that really. And again, it does have shake awake, but I want to see if it does work by just turning it off here. Let's hold that negative sign for 3 seconds. And yes, it did shut off. I'm going to turn it back on and see if we're in the same brightness, and we are. So all of that stuff is functioning like it should. So before I take that Picatinny adapter plate off, I did want to tell you guys, like, more and more people are running these small little reflex type red dot sights on rifles. Like, they used to only really go for pistols, but you can take this and mount this directly to your rifle. It's super small, it's super lightweight. Like most of your tube style red dots, those things weigh 6 to 10 ounces. And then obviously a scope is going to weigh 15, 20 ounces or more. Whereas this, as it is right now, basically weighs 2 ounces. So very lightweight. And, they're obviously very accurate, but just want to show it to you guys real quick. That's what the underside looks like with that Picatinny plate removed. So imagine this being mounted onto my pistol now. I will have to take this off whenever it's time to change that battery. So you might have to re-zero it. But again, the battery should last, I would assume, at least a year or two. So it's not like you're doing it all the time. But just kind of keep that in mind. And there is like a little rubber O-ring that goes around that battery right there. And when I removed this, it was kind of stuck. You can almost see the imprint of it right there. It was stuck to that, and so I had to kind of push it back down in there. But without that Picatinny, so if I'm mounting this to a pistol, 1.2 ounces. So very, very lightweight. All right, I'm about to get this mounted to my Taurus G3C. Just so YouTube knows, putting this red dot onto this pistol does not modify or alter the pistol in any way. Doesn't make it do anything different than what it did before. I'm working with a completely safe, unloaded gun, no ammo anywhere around. So the one thing I did just realize is that the screws that hold the optic to the actual Picatinny mount are the only screws that they include. A lot of other manufacturers will give you 3 or 4 sets of different sizes of screws. What I always like to do is take whatever pistol I'm going to be mounting it on and see if those threads even start right, see if they feel smooth. There's going to be some resistance because there's some Loctite on there, but I want to make sure that the threads take right before I start trying to screw anything down too hard. If not, I do have like some from Taurus that I can use, but I'll probably try to use the ones that were included with Arory first. And you can obviously compare the threads to make sure that they look right. This is the Arory one there with the blue Loctite, and that one is the Taurus one. All right, got that mounted. I ended up using the Taurus screws. I didn't want to chance using those ones and maybe possibly stripping out my slide. The Taurus ones work just fine, but just keep that in mind. There's only one set of screws that they include in that. So again, this Taurus is kind of considered like a subcompact model. The slide on it is probably an inch or right about that. So this does stick over just the tiniest bit on each side. I'm sure if you want something like compact, like a Glock 19 size, it's probably going to fit on there just about perfect. But let's quickly make sure that cover goes on while it's on the pistol. I've actually had some of these that once it's mounted, the thing won't go down in place over it. And I think it's just because of my particular pistol here, but you see how that fits in there nicely. So I am going to test out the shake awake feature, make sure that does shut off after 5 minutes, make sure that it comes back on the same brightness whenever I go to pick it back up. And I'll let you guys know if there's any issues with that at all. All right, guys, out at the range this morning with that little Arory red dot. I'm going to run probably 50 rounds or so through it. We'll get it zeroed in. We'll make sure it holds zero, make sure it doesn't, walk loose, from the slide. We'll make sure that the dot stays on the whole time, stuff like that, and then I'll get some thoughts on it. All right, try to let you guys see what I'm seeing here. I got that dot on kind of about the medium setting. I'm probably on like maybe 4 or 5 right now on the brightness level. All right, guys. So I had a chance to use the Arory red dot. Just kind of want to share some of my feedback with you. First thing I'll say is that you cannot co-witness your factory sights with the dot. As you can see, you cannot look down and see it. There is no channel or no notch right there. So that's kind of a negative in my opinion. It only has one reticle, which you know that when you're buying it. So you just have just a single dot. A lot of the newer red dots are going like circle, circle dot, dot by itself. So you have multiple reticle options. This has one. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, that battery is underneath the reticle. So you do have to remove this when it's time to replace that. The windage and elevation, there is no feedback from it at all. It's basically just like a screw almost. It just spins. There's no clicks. There's no audible anything. So again, a lot of other ones, you kind of have that feedback. One thing I really noticed at the range is that this glass seems to be a little more pronounced than what other red dots are. And what affected that was the carbon buildup. I would get maybe 12 to 15 shots in, and it would be actually difficult to see through that. There'd be so much buildup on it. Um, I think a lot of other manufacturers have the shroud where it comes just a little bit further forward and the glass is a little more recessed, but it wasn't a huge deal. You just wipe it off, but just something I noticed. Another kind of con is that they really didn't include any screws other than the ones that hold this to that Picatinny mount. Again, a lot of other manufacturers will include 3 and 4 sets of screws on there. And my last kind of negative on it is on the brightest setting. There definitely is a little bit of a starburst where it kind of looks like instead of just being a dot, it looks like there's a whole bunch of like squigglies coming off of the dot. All right, some of the things I really like about the red dot is I do think it's really well built. It's manufactured well, good anodization. I think their quality control is really good. The glass is actually very clear. The shake awake works perfectly. I probably have tested that 40 times over the last couple of weeks where I'll just leave it sit. I'll go pull it out, and it comes back on every single time. Never a problem with that. I like having the 2 MOA dot. I think that's a really good size for a red dot. I like that it does have a lifetime warranty. Now, I don't know how long the company's been in existence and how much that lifetime warranty means if they're not around in a year or 5 years, but they do offer a lifetime warranty at this time. I like using red dots on pistols. One, you can shoot with both eyes open. It lets you acquire your target much faster. And then if you have to have follow up shots, you can get on target, back on target much faster as well. So at the time of me recording this video, these are coming in at $80. I think that's a really good price for an RMR red dot, considering the features that it has. And when you compare that to a lot of other red dots that are similar, they're usually like 120 to 150. So it's definitely a good deal. Now, I don't know enough about the company. I've only got one sample. That's my sample size. So I can't necessarily recommend it on like a home defense, like your primary home defense, or for sure like your carry gun. I probably would not recommend it yet. If I get other products from them in the future, maybe my opinion will change. But I think on a backup home defense gun, or something like that, it's probably definitely appropriate for that. But I will say that at the range, I shot 50 rounds. The dot stayed on the entire time. It was easy to zero. So I didn't have any complaints with the performance. But again, I'm only ever tested one of them. But if you are interested in finding out more information on the Arory Red Dot, I'll leave a link to that down in the video description. And if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below as well. And that's going to be it on this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.